Hello, Rauta followers, subscribers, and random video viewers. This is spontaneous AMA slash Ask Me Anything type of video because today I received kind of interesting question regarding what the hell I am doing besides Rauta or prior to creating this channel regarding my past record label, past bands, journalistic ventures, and whatnot. Also, the other question was that about my interviews and like have I ever gotten annoying interviewers, interviews, interviewees. The thing was like, how do I prepare for interviews? Have you ever had difficult interview when you messed up on what you planned to say, or if the interviewees were like asses? Let's start with this one. Basically, no. Usually, the a-hole type of interviewees are not present. They just don't bother doing it and then start trolling or whatever. People are usually kind of well, respectful, they are nice, they are smart enough to behave when they know that their interview is gonna air some point, someplace, and that's when it's out of their hands basically. Usually when I just pick my candidates for interviews, I just don't plan it too much. I just go whatever is present at any given like gig or festival or whatever. So these contacts I make with interviews in question, I'll just contact them beforehand if possible. If not, it goes through label, whatever, and from that point it's just kind of a random, out of my hands anyway. I don't usually plan questions that much. I like to keep it very spontaneous, kind of about two people or more having a conversation kind of in a friendly type about this and that. I don't have a question list. You never see me going to a place like, oh, here I have this list of questions like, I was recording your album, I was doing this and that. And in that respect, it's also, it doesn't matter which member of the band kind of comes before me to do the interview. Of course, sometimes I might have questions in my mind, like, okay, these I need to ask from the vocalist of the band, or these questions I need to address to the drummer of the band, and then suddenly the band member is changed. Like if I would have some questions towards the vocalist about like some vocal performance or being on the stage or whatever, and then suddenly it's a drummer. Usually things go a bit different, but well, it's all about improvising. It's all about adjusting to yourself what the situation demands. And when it comes to the questions, I like to start, as you know, asking some very easy, some random ones sometimes, and then it's just, progresses from that point to beyond my understanding, beyond my planning. So it's kind of like very spontaneous overall, and usually interviewees are very happy with that. They don't mind that I don't have a list of questions. They just reply to my questions, and if I seem to repeat myself, which has happened at least once, like if I basically ask the same question twice but in a different context or something, those just get edited away. It's not a big deal. But usually those kind of stuff doesn't happen. It's just spontaneous, normal conversation, and plans don't have any place in such a way to create interviews. Hope this answers your question and pondering what do I do with interviews and how do I plan for them. Now the more, maybe important, but the bigger question was more like along the lines like what I had done prior to this one, what I'm also doing alongside with Rauta. Let's start with my current affairs. As many people probably already know, I have been writing for a Finnish website called impermi.net for past 16 plus years, and that's how I started doing basically reviews. Well, not basically started, but it was one of those starting points anyway. So written reviews, probably some 5,000 articles so far, most of them being reviews of albums and demos, but also gig stuff, interviews and whatever. But they are in Finnish and they are in written format, so most of you people out there, they won't do any good. It's just Finnish. Unless you can read Finnish, it won't be of no help. I also started around 2003, I think, writing for Finnish Inferno magazine, which is well, the biggest heavy metal music or rock music magazine in Finland, and well, just random reviews mostly, sometimes interviews, but haven't been doing interviews for so many years right now. It doesn't matter which media except for Rauta. I don't have the time or enthusiasm to put my effort into writing reviews or sorry interviews. I just want to do them in video format, and that's why Rauta was basically born. Uh, Besides these two, medias, I also wrote for a very short time for a Swedish fanzine called Imhotep. I don't even know if it's still existing any to this day anymore. This was early 2000 something, 2003, 2004, along those lines. And also I used to run a website called Inquisitionist by myself, which was basically a web blog website. It wasn't blog format, but anyway, it was mostly about longer interviews in English. And there was basically these kind of categories: thumb up or thumb down, with the review scores. I mean, the albums or demos were just either good and acceptable or not. And the interviews were like done in ways that I originally would send, a batch of questions and get replied and ask more questions and kind of stuff like that. So it was kind of like correspondence, but in email ways. I never did too many of those, but I remember having, one with Shining from Sweden, for example, and other such kind of smaller bands back in the days. But be it as it may, too much stuff to write for Imperium, so eventually I decided to call it quits. I had a couple of candidates for helping me out with the Inquisitionist site, and I even handed them a handful of albums and demos for review. I think I never got a single one returned. So soon after I decided like, okay, let's call it quits. 4 media is way too much. And I'm lucky that I did that, because eventually now I'm having hard time with even Rauta and Imperium. Not hard time because the albums are mostly the same. So, but still, double the work for any given review. And then I had also a small record label called Serpent's Eye, Serpent being my band name for so many years, still is actually. Serpent's Eye Productions was kind of a, well, small label, and I decided to have it based on the demos I got sent for reviews, and I would go picking the nice ones which didn't yet have a record contract or whatever. This was at the time when I was between jobs, basically. So I started to, I wanted to give it a go, released a couple of albums, and then when I got more job and whatever, let's just call it quits. I think I didn't have the passion for that. I mean, as much as I like to write and talk, I'm not that much of a salesman. Never was. I mean, I've tried it in my previous day job, so I didn't feel that it was the thing what I wanted to do. But that's exactly what I was supposed to do when having a label. Sending labels and distros, like, hey, I got this release, why don't you distribute it? Why don't you buy a box of these CDs or, chains and whatnot, and then run distribution with CDs and whatnot. And man, I didn't have the fire in me for that. But it was nice, at least, to try as a hobby of sorts. What else? Well, bands. This is the question I have answered at least once, probably twice before. I used to have a band called Nightside from '96 to about 2001, I think. I don't even remember when I left the band. I was vocalist for their like one demo, one 7-inch, one full-length CD, and then some compilations. We did a few gigs back in the days in Finland only. It was nice while it lasted, but way too soon it became just a band that was just sipping coffee at the rehearsal room and not going anyplace else. And even though they got me replaced later on with a new vocalist, which was nice. He's a good guy, good vocalist also. I don't know what happened, but they never managed to release their second album. They did it, but never released it. So basically, me leaving the band was also kind of a timer by which the band was, running out of time eventually. And it kind of vanished out of that. Then there's my band, my own band, Annihilatus, which has been since 1999. We had almost 15 years, more like 13 years of a break there. Kind of put the band on hiatus around 2003, basically. Yeah, I think 2003. But 2016, so more than a couple of years ago, not right now. We just suddenly reformed and started doing new music, and the new album will be out spring 2019. So any week soon now. I think these are the most important factors about what I have been doing in metal music. There are also other places where I've been writing about music, and I've also had some other bands which never, I think, even recorded a demo. My first band started in 1994 playing old school death metal. That didn't last, I think, even a year. It was the place where in the city where I was, studying, and when people went to different directions, the band also kind of stopped existing. It wasn't anything spectacular, and since there's no demo, it doesn't really help if you Google it up. It used to go under monikers of Cyric, CIRAC, and Valmet, which was kind of a joking name about the very same thing. But as I said, no demos never recorded, so unfortunately unable to give you a sample how it sounded. Probably quite bad, too bad I don't have anything about that band anywhere. Probably not even lyrics I wrote for the band. And then I was in a kind of a punk rock, whatever, hybrid band called Morris Drugstore around, this must have been around 1996 probably. Didn't last for very long. I think we basically had one outdoors rehearsal, which was kind of like a gig, but not quite. And then I got later on kicked out of the band for various reasons. I wasn't too active or the type of vocalist they were looking for, or whatever. But wasn't never that much of my thing anyway. And soon after that, or around those times, that's when I joined Nightside in 1996. So everything fell in place eventually. But that's pretty much to sum up this metal history of mine. So if you have any more questions, if there are questions I haven't replied yet or answered yet, please keep them coming, preferably under this very video, so I don't have to, look for them in very different places. I'm more than happy to reply your questions if there are any regarding me or the channel or whatever, but let's see about that in the next video, which I hope to be about around springtime. Until that, more review videos, more opinion videos, more interviews coming up as soon as possible. Reviews, well, almost every day, and interviews later on this winter, hopefully in February or March. So until that, see you soon, and have a good weekend and stay brutal.